Hello and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Michael Jacobi, delighted to have you with us this week. Even more delighted to have an old friend who is, and I'm not sure how you became an icon one afternoon. And we'll find out how that happened. Roger Maltbie.
Mike, good to see you.
How are you, buddy?
I'm terrific.
It's great to see you. But you did. I mean, you had this whole career on tour, and then you did. You're like the nice Johnny Miller.
Well, let's put it this way: it's easy to play good cop, bad
No,
cop.
boy, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
Let me see. Who do you want to be? I know.
I'd like to be the good cop.
You're a Los Gatos guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long you lived here?
Moved here in '77. I was raised on the east side of the valley, up by Elmar Park, that area. I went to James Lick High School, and our quarterback, my freshman year, he was a senior, was Jim Plunkett.
Yeah.
Yeah, but moved over here in '77. I started the tour in '75, had a little success. It was time for me to buy my first place. And all the good watering holes were over here.
They were.
Yeah,
They were.
you know,
Did you play San Jose Country?
Place over here.
San Jose Country Club?
That's where I grew up, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably logged more time on that piece of dirt than just about anybody.
You're in that middle area in terms of golf, throwing Saracen out, but those years of the big three, and then the area. Although Jack was still playing well into the '80s, but and I remember we both knew Venturi well, who was very bitter, and average paycheck in your day.
Oh gosh, the first tournament I won on the tour, first place was $15,000.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you make the cut in a tournament now, it's about that, but that's okay. I got to do what I loved, and I got to make a living out of it. It's pretty good.
What was it like growing up? Your dad a player?
Well, we moved near San Jose Country Club, and my brother and I would find golf balls, and members hit over the fence, and we'd sneak on, and Dad kind of said, well, you guys really like this game, don't you? And gave it a shot, and we ended up joining there when I was about 8 years old, and you know, I spent pretty much every day there until I was 21 or so, at least, on those grounds. Yeah.
Self-taught?
No, there was a wonderful old professional there. It was like my second dad, Eddie Duino, and he was the head pro there for like 40 years, and was very giving of me, and passed away, I think, in '77. But he was around to see me win my first few tournaments on the tour, so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Is your brother? Did he play?
Oh yeah. My older brother, he's 4.5 years older than I. Is the county manager of San Mateo County and has been for years and years and years. Over 20 now.
Civic servant.
He's
He's got time to play.
Yeah, and single-digit handicapper even yet, and was a good player in high school, and you know, gets out once a week, maybe twice if he's lucky, but yeah, he still plays. Yeah.
Now, did you played your first year was '77?
75.
75. And you won. I think you won four.
I won two
Two
that year, back to back, and I was Rookie of the Year in '75.
That's the famous shot.
Well, that was
literally
the next year
the
in
shot,
'76.
Literally a film shot, but also a shot that bounced off.
At the
That was a
Memorial
playoff, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a playoff with Hale Irwin, and we were on the third hole of the playoff, and I hit my approach to the 17th hole, par 4, left of the green, and the next thing I know, it was on the green about 20 feet from the hole, and I didn't know if I'd hit somebody in the head or the shin or something.
I didn't know to thank somebody.
Something hard, yeah. And I walked up there, and they said, no, it hit a piece of rebar that holds up the gallery road stakes to keep the fans off the field of play, so to speak. And it was a pretty good break. Didn't win on that hole. We have the hole with par, and then I won the next hole with birdie. Yeah,
That's neat. And probably Augusta, your fourth.
Yes, that was in 1987, and that was the year that Larry Mize chipped in the playoff in 11 against Norman and Seve Ballesteros.
Yeah.
And I finished a shot back.
Ballesteros had dropped out on 10.
Yes, correct.
I was at Augusta. You know our friend Lee Brandenburg.
Sure,
and we were in Augusta years ago. I think it was '92 when Freddie won, and Ballesteros was there, and Ballesteros looked up. He was going, "The shadow, move your shadow, move it." And then he went, "Oh, it's my shadow."
He was temperamental.
He was an interesting,
very temperamental guy.
Yeah. Characters in those years, and you know, I've covered golf for gone on 25 years, and the change in people that, you know, guys, your generation, Fuzzy and those guys, and I equate your generation of golfers to country western stars, because they've always got a minute. How are you? What's going on?
Yeah.
They're nice guys.
By and
I
large.
mean, no. I mean, my favorite line is every year I have a word with Tiger, and the word's no. That's how it goes. But that's the special thing. Did you play the senior tour?
No. I had 2 shoulder surgeries. My left shoulder I had kind of ripped up, and in the course of playing the game, and I could still play golf, but I knew that I wasn't the same.
Yeah.
There were shots that I couldn't hit that I wouldn't have really thought twice about before. And I got this wonderful opportunity with NBC to see if I'd like to get involved at a specific event. I said, yes, if you let me do the Ryder Cup. I want to do another event. And then they offered me a job, and it's now been this is my 24th year.
Let me ask you, the technology of medicine, what it is. If you had that today, would you have been?
Who knows? I don't know that. I mean, it was done arthroscopically.
Okay. Oh,
I mean, they didn't open my shoulder, but it was a labral tear, which is the cartilage ring that the head of the bone rotates in and keeps it from being bone on bone, and I tore chunks of that out. Yeah, so they take out the chunks, but it makes it a little clunky and not the same.
Well, there is, we talk about your deal with NBC, which was it's one of the wisest moves from a sporting standpoint I think they ever made in bringing you on. And as a fan, I say that. But there must be, well, it just must be a joy to have spent a career with a good deal of success. And maybe you're saying, well, it's the end of one, and boy, here we go. Katie bar the door, I'm doing another, and I'm okay at this.
You know, it's funny. A few things about that. One, I spent what seemingly was my entire life trying to figure out how to hit a golf ball and how to be the best that I could be. And I never spent one moment ever thinking about television.
Yeah.
Never. And the opportunity came, and there was a lot of discussion between my wife Donna and myself as to whether I'd do it or not. And you know, I just thought, gee whiz, you know, it was my decision to start playing the game, and it'll be my decision when it's time to stop. And I got this opportunity, and then it expanded in more and more events, and I had to make a decision whether I was going to play and or get into television. And I was in my early to mid 40s, and the decision to me became really simple when I thought of it this way. If I was going to be the next Jack Nicklaus, I would have got that done by now, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really deep into the back nine of this thing, you know, and it's time to make that move and get the guaranteed paycheck. Big trade-off. When you play the tour, you're your own boss. You play when you want. You don't play when you don't feel like one.
Sure.
You know, if a kid has a birthday, you don't play that week. You go home. You're, you know, with your kid and his birthday. When you have a boss, they say your fanny will be in this town on this date, and you lose control of that. So there were goods and bads, but the long overview is, yeah, it was the right decision to make.
We had last week. We had I don't know if you know Rich Kelly, used to be with Utah Jazz. He's no buddy of mine and played 11 seasons in the NBA. But you know, there is more of a finite career, barring injury.
Right.
Whereas now you can play golf well in your 60s, even on the tour. But you know, he was saying at about 32, 33, you start thinking, maybe I'll go back to this, or you start looking a little bit ahead. Particularly if you're smart. But there's so many of these athletes, and we were talking about the fact that in the NFL, I think 65 or 70% of people are bankrupt after 5 years.
Right. Well, I'm not so sure I was smart. If fate
God sent you a message.
He sent me a message saying it's time to get off the boat here.
I sent you a boat, and there.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit about if you were to describe, whether it be pointed out or asked, if you were to describe, if somebody says to you at a cocktail party, what do you bring to the table in golf?
Oh gosh, I, in particular, like my role in doing television, and am not as comfortable doing other roles. I've spent time in hole towers, and I've spent time in the 18th hole tower when Johnny Miller wasn't there, and I would do that a few times a year. But there you're what is termed an analyst, so you got to have an opinion on everything. I mean, you really there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of very well chosen words,
And the tail can wag the dog very
absolutely,
easily.
and I'll do it, but it's not my favorite. I like being on the ground. I like being with the players. I like seeing the shots.
That's what you liked
struck.
about the game originally.
Exactly. I like hearing the sound of the ball getting hit. I do have the credentials to say whether any shot was a good shot or bad shot. Played the game. I won enough tournaments. I've got those credentials. But I'm not as comfortable saying, well, I think he made a bad decision, or he's not been handling his life in the right way, whatever it may be. I don't want to go there, I want to talk about the golf ball and what's happening on the ground. That's all I want to do.
We are talking to Roger Maltbie, Los Gatos gentleman, and as I say, an icon, and what I think is one of the great treasures of the game many of us love. You're watching Talk of the Town. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, Mike Jacobi here, inviting you to join us again for Jazz Tonight as we kick off the 2015 season. This year, the Summer of Sinatra, dedicated to old Blue Eyes, celebrating his 100th birthday. Each week, we'll be bringing you a new artist that's appearing in town, look behind the scenes and find out what they've got going on in the recording studio, and find out what else is going on live in their lives. Jazz Tonight, right here on KCAT. Hi, welcome back to Talk of the Town. Michael Jacobi here with Roger Maltbie, talking about, let's talk a little bit about the state of the game, which is certainly a large subject. First of all, how did NBC, was it just a matter of bidding, lost the Open with Fox?
Yes, we had broadcast the Open, last year was our final year, it was our 20th year. But they opened it to bidding. Our contract was coming to an end, and that's the nature of the sports business. Wanted to see how much more money they could get. So we bid substantially more than we were paying at the time, but we were outbid by a rather large number too. So Fox had started a new channel.
And that, which speaks volumes too, that they have that ability, that they could show it on that separate channel.
Sure,
on different dates and have to tie
Right,
because
Fox.
USGA I knew demands that.
Right, but we were bidding that as well because
you own the
NBC
Golf
and
Channel.
Channel.
Right.
Yeah, we're one. So Golf Channel certainly could handle the early coverage. At any rate, we were outbid and, so to speak, kicked to the curb. In that regard. Okay, that's all right. And then, fortunately, just a little over a month ago, we won the rights to broadcast the British Open. So now we have a different
ABC is
or NBC, ABC,
ABC,
ESPN
they
will be
were
out. They were
50 years maybe.
a long time.
Jim McCain
Long
used to do.
time, but
Good for you.
again, the nature of the business.
Well, let me ask you, had they known, I'm sure there was some mindset or thinking going on, well, Tiger, that's the end, probably the end of his career, there's nobody coming up. Had you known what was about to happen with Jordan Spieth? Might that have changed the bid?
No, I don't think it would have.
And how were the ratings, for instance, the U.S. Open ratings?
Well, I don't think they were very good this year with Fox's first year doing it, and the broadcast had some troubles.
Now, what'd you think? What'd you think of it?
Well, they had some problems, and it was really their first time out of the box doing a big sporting event. And if you took
But weren't they there last?
Whatever you felt were the 8 best announcers and the best producer, and if you put them all together for the first time, it wouldn't really work, and that's really what was happening. So they'll get better. Everybody said that when they started with the NFL. Fox.
Sure.
They can't do this. What are they doing? The NFL's crazy. Well, they're fine.
But is it there's this formula, and they use Joe Buck an awful lot in this formula. Is that somewhat flawed in this sport? Whereas, to me, the most successful golf coverage is anchored by someone that knows the game. And then you've got your lieutenants coming out here like you guys, and they had a good crew on Fox. But Joe Buck and Norman I thought Norman was okay, but it was just like he was almost an observer. Buck was, and I like him, but not really part.
Well, the host And certainly until they're comfortable enough to get in at a bigger rate. They're the play-by-play guy.
Right.
You know, we're going to 13, and we're going here, and they run to commercial, and they bring us back out, and they do, you know, lead to features, and so on and so forth. That's what they do. And I think Buck was probably wise in not trying to overdo.
Right.
As he gets more comfortable, because he's a golfer, he knows the game.
Yeah.
But until he gets more comfortable, probably best he take a lower profile.
Playing that course and having to wear mouse ears while you're broadcasting was perhaps a little difficult at Chambers Bay. That was a strange golf course.
Very unique golf course. We broadcast a USGA championship, the U.S. Amateur there. I think it was 2010, and they had some holes at the bottom of this property that were hard up against Puget Sound, where the ground was fairly level, and a lot of those holes really quite good and very unique. And then they had about 4 or 5 holes up on the steep hillside. And when elevation changes become dramatic enough, it's really hard to keep shot values and things like that right. They get skewed when you play on the side of a mountain. So
well, you and I talked about it. I thought it became painfully clear in the two similar link-style courses, but how much better a course and how much the players enjoyed Whistling Straits as opposed to Chambers Bay.
Yeah, but Whistling Straits really isn't a links course. It looks like
Yeah, okay.
You know. Chambers Bay was built on an old sand and rock quarry.
Right.
So all the subsoil was sand.
Okay.
That's not the case at Whistling Straits. And they have very much the links look, but the ball doesn't chase around on the ground. If you remember the U.S. Open, the ground was all brown and, you know, I mean, and that's the way they want it, and that's the way the links golf courses are when you go to Scotland, England, Ireland.
But in Scotland and England, Ireland, if a true links course, and correct me if I'm wrong, is not going to guard the green with traps right in front of the green.
Usually
you
do
have
the
that
ball
option.
onto the green, yes.
Exactly.
And those golf courses over there, it's a fescue grass, which is natural to them, which they have at Chambers Bay. The climate is conducive to having fescue. It is not in Wisconsin, so it's a different grass, requires more water. They don't really play the same.
Yeah. We alluded to the fact that there's been a new guard every week for years, but it appears that Jordan Spieth is the new face of golf, and seems like a great kid.
Certainly is. He's a fabulous kid, and you know, the game is as in good a hands and as good a shape on the professional level right now as I can ever recall. It wasn't too many years ago we were all saying, where are the young kids? I mean, we need young players. You know, there were guys in their late 30s and whatnot that were dominating the game and so on and so forth. Well, now those guys are getting a little older. Phil's in his mid-40s. Tiger will turn 40 this year. And all of a sudden, we have a raft of these young kids. And they're terrific kids. That's what I love. I mean, Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, Rory McIlroy. These are all spectacularly polite, courteous, nice,
and savvy about the media.
Oh, sure.
You know, I mean, you went through a generation. I mean, Leonard, I can't think of his first name, that made the putt at the Ryder Cup. Justin Leonard.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it couldn't have been not nicer at all. I mean, he was just like one of these guys. Why am I even talking to you? And I mean, he's a nice guy, but they didn't really know how to do an interview. They didn't have that assuredness and wherewithal. Jordan Spieth and Roy, they seem to have that.
But with the vestiges of time comes that training. In other words, he couldn't be bigger than Arnold Palmer or Jack Nicklaus.
And that's okay.
Tiger Woods is no bigger than they were.
That's right.
But those guys weren't hounded their each and every move. Thursday and Friday, they weren't on television. Saturday and Sunday, for a couple hours, the public would see them. But now, these guys with the Golf Channel, whatnot, run around. There's a camera and a mic in front of them all the time. They want their opinion, want their time. You know, it's a whole different ballgame now. And the kids of today have learned that. They're coming up with that, and now it's comfortable to them.
When Arnold and Jack Kennedy had free time, it really wasn't the kind of thing you'd want to follow with a cell phone. Do you find yourself...
He said it. I didn't say he said it.
But do you find yourself saying, having literally been there and done that, and knowing both being interviewed and interviewing people, do you find yourself talking to a young guy and want to just, on occasion, slap him and say, you know, this is how it works?
There are a couple of those that aren't cooperative, that at times seem to go out of the way to be distant and to run from you. And that's not the business we're in.
No, it's not
We're
why
in
you're
business
making the bucks. I
to
mean, even if it
prop them
comes
up.
down to that, even if you want to make it just dollars and cents, you know why you're making this money?
Right.
It's because I'm holding this microphone.
Well, in some ways, but we're star makers, not star breakers.
That's right.
Your own actions can make you a star
That's
breaker.
right. That's
But
exactly right.
we want to pump you up. That's in our interest.
Your boys, you have two sons?
Two sons.
And they went, Los
Both
Angeles?
went to Los Gatos High School.
They play golf?
Go Cats. Uh-huh.
They play golf?
The oldest one, when he gets a chance, but he was a baseball player here.
Okay.
He was a baseball coach here
Okay.
for a few years, and now has moved on to the collegiate level over at Mission College.
Did you play ball growing up?
That was my favorite sport as a kid. I played through Little League, but kids gravitate to what they do well. And at baseball, I was just another kid.
Yeah.
At golf, from an early age, I was a pretty good little player.
What's the most? Well, let's talk a couple of obvious questions. I know people are probably interested in your favorite course in the world.
Oh gosh. Just for fun and the beauty of it, I'd say Cypress Point.
I played Cypress last week. And
But
it was a joy.
my favorite great test of the game is just down the street at Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
You love St. Andrews?
Yes, absolutely. Very quirky, old.
It's
And
quirky.
when you first see it, you're not enamored necessarily with it. But there's a couple things about golf that are always true. Yeah, the ball always goes where you hit it. Every time. And, it'll bounce off a hillocks and end up in the middle, or it'll hit a knob in the middle and end up in the hillocks, or, it's like a giant game of pinball at times when the ground is hard. But is that unfair? And I think once you get used to it, ultimately it is the fairest test of the game, You hit it, chase it, and hit it from wherever it ends up. That's
You
the idea.
learn very early in life that nothing rolls like a ball.
That's exactly. There's another one.
That's right. or as Mark Twain's great line, never pick up a lost ball till it stops rolling.
That's right. That's right.
So you guys have a Ryder Cup, right?
We do. We have
Good.
it next year.
And where's
it
that?
will be at Hazeltine in Minnesota, right outside Minneapolis. This year, in a matter of about a month, we'll have the President's Cup in Korea, South Korea. Although they're starting to shoot at each other.
We got a
I don't know
couple
if
minutes
that's
left,
gonna be
Roger.
good.
We're good. Whenever the Ryder Cup comes up, and particularly these last, Europe won, 6 times, 5, whatever, it's been for a decade now. And it just seems so sensible, the way it's described is the Europeans travel together, stay together, and they're not coming in by helicopter and then meeting, Is it that approach to golf? I think to team golf, they have it together.
But golf is inherently not a team game.
Yeah.
It's all about you.
Yeah.
You've got 14 clubs, a golf ball, and a caddy, and away you go, and it's you against everybody else and the golf course. And a team game, there's a different mentality that goes along with it. And people have to meld, they have to play together as teams within the team in the best ball and the foursomes competition. And it seems to have been a problem. Now, on the other hand, the U.S. side dominates in the President's Cup, which is the U.S. against the rest of the world. Ryder Cup's only U.S. against Europe. And used to be Great Britain and Ireland, but now it's the rest of Europe. And, on paper, almost every time out, the U.S. has the better team. But somehow it doesn't translate anymore into the Ryder Cup. And it's a head scratcher.
Did you play the Ryder Cup?
Never did.
Never did. I bet
Never
you.
did.
Something you probably would love to.
Oh, yeah. I would.
The most gratifying thing that you ever heard from a fan?
Oh gosh, just that I bring some fun to it, because it's not rocket science. There are times when golf is very serious. I mean, some guy's going to win a lot of money. He's going to get a victory, maybe his first. It's going to change his life. It's going to do a lot of those things, and that's not time to be funny. But there are things that happen along the way that can be looked at less than really serious in a very serious way, and I try to have fun.
Barney Adams is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
His big push is to play it up, move the upper tees, and have fun.
Sure.
That's what it's all about.
Exactly. You get around the golf course in a reasonable amount of
You
time.
think when you were in your early 40s you weren't going to reach the Nicholas thing? Well, trust me.
Yeah.
I've got, at my age, I'm not going to reach it. So
You're not going to get to the Barbara Nichols stage, right?
Sure, good to see you.
Good to
I
see you.
enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you out at Jazz.
Yeah, it's always great to be home, and yeah, I want to come see. I'll be there.
So please do.
Yeah, Wednesday.
That's the talk of the town. I'm Mike Jacobi. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you soon.